Hi, Flute Besties. So I've gotten some questions lately about how to get used to when you switch from a closed hole flute to an open hole flute. You have a few options, right? So they do make plugs that you can use to put into the open hole so that it plays just like a closed hole flute. And you could either put in all the plugs, or you could just put the plugs that maybe are more strategically helpful. So sometimes that means the left ring finger, especially if it's an inline like this, and the right ring finger, because those are the ones that sometimes we kind of miss the most. You could also just go cold turkey and take all the plugs out and just suffer for about a week. So usually it doesn't take much longer than a week just to get used to it if you take them all out at once. Now, if you've got a concert this week or a recital this week, this is not the time to do that, right? But if you've got a week that's just sort of normal and doesn't have any high stakes activities or events going on, then you could just take them out and get used to them for the week. A couple of things to make sure of though, when you are playing an open hole flute, you want to make sure that your fingers are flat, right? So you don't want to play on the tips like this, right? Because then you're not going to cover. You want sort of the fleshy part of the pad of your finger to be covering the hole. And if you're playing on the tips like this, it isn't going to work. So you want your fingers to be flat so that it can cover. And then it's covering just like this, super, super flat. So the fleshier part of your finger is creating the seal. Obviously, you also want to make sure that you're playing in the middle of the key and that your fingers aren't hanging off the back or the front of the keys at all. So one thing, if you know that you're going to upgrade and you know that maybe your hand position is not the greatest right now, like sometimes you hang off the keys or you barely cover them, right? Now is the time to start really watching your hand position to make sure that it's correct so that your transition to an open hole flute is a little bit easier. So if you need help with that, send me a message and we will get that figured out. But those are some tips that you can try just to make that transition from a closed hole flute to an open hole flute a little bit easier.